Welcome to Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Spider-Man 2. I play it on the PS5 because, currently a PS5 exclusive. So let's get into the story. You actually play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales Spider-Man. They're both still trying to figure out their lives, not only as Spider-Man, but as Peter Parker and Miles Morales. So you get all the drama revolving around that, as well as Peter Parker's bestest, buddiest, foreverist, Harry Osborn, pops back up. But as for what really kicks off the action of this game, basically during what is routine Spider-Man business, a group pops up and breaks some supervillains free from the raft, and, well, that's obviously not okay. You eventually learn, and really you already know, and the Spider-Men do not, that it's being orchestrated by Kraven the Hunter. He wants to hunt these villains because, well, it's in his name. As for that, the story continues on, and we've already seen it in the trailers. Eventually, Venom is unleashed upon the city. And one thing that I found was interesting with the whole Venom part of the game is they bring together a lot of different symbiote storylines from the comics. It's not just one. They do some interesting twists with it. Gotta say, overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the story was really well done. I like the stingers at the end because they hint at what's coming in Spider-Man 3, and I'm excited for that whenever that does come around. Let's get into the audio, and first off, the voiceover work is phenomenal. Top tier game, top tier voiceover work. I really appreciated it. I think they did a fantastic job bringing everyone to life. As for the music, also fantastic. I love the different music. It's not wildly different, but there are different elements for Peter Parker Spider-Man versus Miles Morales Spider-Man. Once you hear it, you'll notice it, and I really do appreciate that. As for the sound effects, I think the sound effects are really just very well done throughout the entire game. They always fit. There aren't weird sound effects that feel out of place. They're high quality. It's just very well done. I did have a couple of small issues. There were a couple of cutscenes where the audio desynced, and it was noticeable, but not game destroying. Which, let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is an open world action RPG, but not like a Souls-like action RPG. Just like the previous Spider-Man games, the combat can be a little more challenging if you're not paying attention, but it's not like soul-crushingly hard. And I found that it was very responsive, and functionally it was great. The way you could move around the city, the swinging mixed with the gliding is very well done. The running up the walls also works fantastically. Just all of the mobility stuff is just incredibly well executed in this game. And while you can fast travel, and there's a whole lot of stuff about how amazing and how quickly you can fast travel, the regular traveling is so satisfying that I rarely found myself fast traveling, not until the end of the game when I was trying to get the last of some collectibles. A small element that I did enjoy was all the little, mini games you would call them, where you're messing with molecules to try and isolate things so that you can track something. Peter's working on his own science stuff, and that's cool. The only mini game that I don't think functioned well and had its fair share of issues was the bicycle one. It's a little control related with the steering in that. I also ran into some graphical issues with that, which I guess I'll get into later. This game was not built around using a bicycle, and you can feel it. Now, I did mention the RPG, so beating enemies, completing missions, whether they are side or main, will get you both experience as well as tech parts and hero points. Experience is used to get new abilities for your characters. The tech points and whatnot are used to upgrade your web shooters and your different gadgets, as well as upgrade your suits and unlock color schemes and new suits. The one thing that they didn't do this time around, though, is the suits don't give you perks and bonuses, or at least I didn't see that they do. That being said, all the different suits were pretty cool, and some of the color schemes you would unlock were actually cooler than the originals. As for the gameplay, I really like the difference in gameplay, like when you're playing as Spider-Man versus Miles versus Spider-Man in the black suit. Yes, he gets the black suit. One thing I really appreciated was they got rid of a bunch of the forced stealth sections, because that's never awesome, especially in games that aren't properly built around it. The combat functions very much similarly to the previous two games, so it was good then, it's good now. I appreciate that they didn't try and change too much and make it weird and shitty, which does happen from time to time. Let's get into the controls, and the controls work well. I did have some times for cutscenes, and they were due to weird glitches where I was supposed to push a button, it didn't work. I was doing, what was it? I think it was L1 square, and it wouldn't do it no matter what. So I actually had to quit out the game and jump back in, and then it worked, but still, that was a pain in the ass. Otherwise, I found the controls to be responsive, and they did what I needed when I needed. You have good movement, you have good camera control, although when you're in combat, the camera can get into positions that aren't beneficial to you, so that's a problem in any third-person game. Okay, not every third-person game, but many. Overall, though, I was happy with it, and I didn't have any, like, rage-inducing things where the controls weren't doing what I needed. Then you've got the graphics and visuals, and this is a gorgeous, gorgeous game. I mean, really, the city, the lighting, just everything. All the small details throughout the city, reflections in puddles, you can literally see reflections off of like shiny balloons. The amount of detail in the reflections in puddles, all of that is just quite frankly phenomenal. It's amazing. But then you look at the characters, the amount of detail in their faces. I mean, you can see pores, you can see wrinkles, you can see all of that, and it looks fantastic. It's really actually incredibly impressive. I will say, I'm still not a huge fan of the new Spider-Man face. I got used to it, but he still looks like a 4-year-old. But I mean, you look at the costumes. Obviously, I already mentioned all the suits you unlock, but the amount of detail in each and every one of those suits is absolutely fantastic. It's amazing that they put that effort into the game. But then you also have, you know, the animation in all of the cutscenes, which is awesome. It's so good. The facial expressions, just all of that is really cool. As well as in the combat, there's a subtle animation that I just really loved. When you're fighting on a roof or there's a car in the way, your character will launch over it in like an attack, and it just looks awesome. So even if that's blocking you from attacking your opponent, they'll leap over it and attack them in like a well-executed animation. I also liked the team-up animations between Miles and Peter when they're doing their like team-up attacks. I thought that was fun and cool. Just overall, this is a gorgeous game. That being said, I had no shortage of graphical issues. There was a stretch of time where when I was running around in the black suit, all of a sudden my costume was just bright white for no reason and like shiny, and it wasn't supposed to be, but it wasn't just me, it was like enemies as well, but from certain angles it was them. Even when they were unconscious they were showing that way. It was weird and unappealing and annoying, so I had to quit out and jump back in. I mentioned the bicycles earlier. There was a stretch of time where like the pedals and my character's feet were completely out of sync, and it was noticeable and looked weird, as well as just the sheer number of clipping issues I ran into. Oh my god, clipping through things happened to me during a bicycle stretch. It happened to me in combat. I clipped into a building that I was eventually supposed to go into, but not at that time. I had to beat the enemies first. And I mean, I ran into several issues like that throughout, none of them game-breaking, but still obnoxious. If I'm gonna get into my biggest issue, I forgot to mention one in the audio section. My audio just, there was a loud click and it was completely gone, but anything I did on like my PlayStation home screen was making noise. It was the game itself. Had to quit out, enter back in. But the biggest issue I ran into was the game crashed on me multiple times, at least 4 or 5 times, which for obvious reasons is frustrating and sucks. I will say, however, that the checkpointing in this game really makes up for a lot of those issues. Basically, any issue I ran into where I had to quit out the game entirely or got kicked out of the game because it, you know, screwed up on me, I was able to load back in, and at most I lost a minute, maybe 2. So it wasn't as destructive as it could have been, but it definitely wasn't awesome. And I do get that this game is in a lot of ways a technical marvel and there's a lot of amazing things, but there are also a lot of small things. Which leads into my wrap up. Despite all the small issues that I ran into, and there were plenty, none of them destroyed the game because it's so well designed that even losing progress, you didn't lose that much progress. The story, the combat, the movement through the city, the swinging and gliding, all of that is so fun and so well done that it makes up for all the little issues that are there. So yes, if you own a PS5, I fully recommend this game. That's not a hard recommendation to make. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me which is your favorite Spider-Man suit? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.